Founded in California in 2005, Box is an online file-sharing service for businesses who want to store their data in the cloud. Headed by charismatic CEO Aaron Levie, the company recently made its London office its international headquarters. I met Aaron to find out more about his thinking behind the expansion to London and to ask for his thoughts on Tech City. Talk me through that expansion of the company. Why you picked London? Why anywhere else in Europe?
Yeah, well, as we evaluated international locations to sort of set up in at the beginning of last year, which is when we decided to make international a huge focus of our strategic kind of roadmap, we determined that the largest concentration of companies that we wanted to be able to work with and sell to, and large enterprises and companies were sort of centralized in the UK, and so we decided to put our initial footprint here and put our primary kind of go-to-market office in London. And but we've been expanding since then. So we have people in France now and Germany, and we're going to certainly reach out to a lot more of the regions and countries in Europe. But we wanted to start out in London as sort of the initial phase of our international expansion.
Okay. And so what role did Tech City play in that then? Was that an attractive sort of bonus of London, or is that not really something you consider?
Well, I think the biggest draw is that London is starting to ramp up from a startup and ecosystem standpoint, which is really significant for us. Box ultimately is a platform company, so while we help people and businesses store and share files and information, we actually power a lot of third-party applications. So we needed to be in an environment and in a market where there was a lot of startups being created, where there's going to be a lot of innovation, that we could help work with all of those enterprise software companies that were going to be emerging, and that's that's been a kind of a great environment for us so far.
Okay, and so in expanding here, there's quite a different culture, isn't there, between London and Tech City and Silicon Valley? And what have you noticed there? And has that been a good thing, or has it been a bit difficult to perhaps adjust the way your business works?
From a technology ecosystem standpoint and from a startup community standpoint, I think that there's a lot of similarities between the Valley and London and Tech City, and it's just that in the Valley we've been doing this for 30 years, and it's a lot earlier in a lot of markets. But the same motivations, the same inspiration, the same sort of influence and excitement, I think, exists globally, and we're seeing that same kind of creativity everywhere we go.
Okay. And so you say Silicon Valley is sort of 30 years ahead. Is that ahead on the same road as Tech City? Are we going in the same direction, or are we going different? And should we be going in a different direction?
Well, I can't comment on kind of where things are relative to the Valley's sort of evolution, but I would say that the mix of having capital, talent, universities and companies and startups that begin to emerge, those are the sort of 3 or 4 factors that you really need to have as a virtuous cycle for a great startup community to blossom and evolve. And I think that London and Tech City have those elements for sure. There's no question. And so it's going to be about what can be uniquely focused on from within this environment. And so it might be different kinds of companies that emerge and that really begin to get traction. I would say, as an example, because London is such a central hub to finance and media industries, it might be that businesses that orient more from a technology standpoint in those spaces will emerge. But I think that there's a tremendous innovation, tremendous talent, and so it's just, it takes time to watch these ecosystems evolve and emerge.
Sure. And so what about for the financial sort of position in London and getting investments for smaller startups? Is that something that's maturing well now? Because I think initially someone might have had a great idea, but they couldn't quite convince anyone to invest.
I think that there's a lot of European investors that are focusing more on London, the broader area. I think that there's certainly very high quality venture capital firms that have emerged and have very significant efforts in the area. I think what the community has to expect and be comfortable with is you need to put up a lot of risk up front. You will see lots of companies that don't succeed, and that's just the nature of building up these ecosystems. And it takes time, right? There's so many, you need to test out in so many different ways before you begin to see big successes. And I think the ecosystem has to know and understand that. But I think that between the government and between businesses and between venture capitalists and the universities, there's a very deep understanding of all of that. And we just had a developer event on Friday, actually, and we were coming in right before a 48-hour hackathon was starting to happen. And it's the same vibe, the same kind of culture that you see in Silicon Valley,
sure.
Just with different accents.
You're seen as sort of this very lively, very animated character. Is that something that's saved for interviews and keynotes, or is this you?
Oh, no, I do this in bed. I do it in the bathroom, in the shower, everywhere. So we're very focused on moving quickly and trying to be as disruptive as possible.
Sure. Do you ever feel burnt out?
Do I ever feel burnt out? I think the cool thing about being able to do something that you're really passionate about is it never really feels like work as much as it feels like something that you would always choose to do if you didn't have to do it, you'd still want to
Sure.
go be a part of it. And so it tends to not burn you out.